Hello and welcome to today's episode of Justice Bytes, a video series where we talk to people at Maurice Blackburn about the amazing work they're doing to make a difference in the community. I'm Jennifer Canis and I lead the social justice practice here at Maurice Blackburn. Today I'm joined by Hayriye Uluca, who is a principal lawyer in our superannuation and insurance practice. Welcome.
Thanks, Jen.
The most common insurance associated with superannuation is TPD Insurance. What is that?
Yeah, that's right. So most people will have death and TPD, total and permanent disablement cover, within their super, which means that in the event that they can't work because of a medical condition, they can claim that insurance, and usually they just have to show that they can't go back to the usual work that they were doing before.
And is everyone's cover the same?
No, one of the things that we've discovered is that there's a lot of inequities when it comes to insurance within super. And while it's a fabulous Australian public policy, we have discovered that with some insurance policies attached to some funds, people, because of their employment status, have been disproportionately disadvantaged. And we find that really it's the most vulnerable people who are disadvantaged.
How does that occur?
So what we find is that if a person is casual or they're employed to do high-risk work, labouring work, manual work, quite often they have to be assessed under the most difficult test of TPD, which is nearly impossible to satisfy.
What's that difficult test?
It's called an activities of daily living test, which means that a person must prove that they cannot perform at least 2 basic activities of daily living. And those activities include dressing oneself, feeding oneself, using the toilet, using the shower, and also transferring from, say, a chair to a bed. In most cases, even with the most physically disabled people, we find that they are able to do at least 2 of those activities and they don't meet the test. And the other problem is that if you've got a mental health condition, there's no way that you can meet the test despite how crippling your condition may be.
And so do those conditions only apply to certain categories of professions or jobs?
Exactly. So you won't necessarily know it when you look at your member statement, but quite often when a person goes to claim, the insurer will then look at their employment status when they became a member of the fund. And if they were, say, casual or working in a high-risk job, the insurer will apply that test at that point. And so what we're finding is that casual workers and people in these manual jobs are the ones that are most impacted and therefore are disproportionately disadvantaged.
And how did you find out about this difference in cover? Did it come through the work that you do with clients?
Yeah, so a big part of our practice is supervising our claims team and helping them to come up with case theories and strategise how we're going to overcome decisions by insurers that are unfair or perhaps unreasonably reached. And we were finding a very high proportion of these cases against 2 particular funds. In the past, we would unfortunately have to tell the clients that we didn't think that their case had a good chance of success. But over time, we've decided to take on the insurers and challenge these decisions. And so we've discovered these decisions and these policies through the work that we do in supervising and supporting our claims team.
What impact does it have on people's lives when they can't access TPD cover, having paid premiums all their working life?
It can be really devastating, particularly as people are essentially relying on this as their only insurance policy when something happens. And so people often feel very ripped off and feel deceived in the sense that if they had known, they perhaps might have made a different decision to make sure that they were putting their money into, say, an industry super fund where the insurer wouldn't have applied such a tough test because of their employment status. And we're finding that industry funds don't disproportionately disadvantaged vulnerable people in the way that some of these retail funds do.
And because if someone has their TPD cover accepted, what does that mean?
Well, it means that they'll get a lump sum paid to them. Either it'll sit in their account until they apply to access it, or they can have it paid out to them. And it means that they can retire debt. It means that in some cases they can afford to pay for treatment that they otherwise can't access. You know, mental health issues are a really insidious problem, and something that is a big challenge for a lot of our clients is accessing private mental health treatment. And we've seen a lot of people who have been able to access TPD benefits suddenly be able to actually get the treatment that helps them to look after their wellbeing.
One thing I've been really fascinated in with the work that you do is that you haven't accepted, the computer says no, and that you've really been pursuing this matter and trying to make change in this area. How have you been able to make some change?
So it's multi-layered, and it's not just, obviously on the individual cases. A lot of consumer advocacy goes into trying to be a catalyst for change, complaining about these policies and making sure that it's well known that we're quite critical of insurers that do apply unfair tests to vulnerable people. And so doing a lot of that consumer advocacy and public policy work has been really important, but also on individual cases, trying on arguments, using the consumer protections within the legislation to make sure that we are putting insurers on notice that we don't want them to get away with these decisions where an irrelevant factor like employment status is being used to apply a tough test and deny a person their benefits.
And are we seeing any change?
In 2021, the Financial Services Council actually prohibited the use of occupational ratings for the application of these types of restrictive tests. So what that means is that as policies get rolled out and updated, they won't be allowed to apply this really tough test to people because they're either casual or because they are working in a high risk or manual job. And so that's an improvement for future consumers. It doesn't answer the question though, and the difficulty that we've got when it comes to clients that we're stuck with these older policies.
And is there any way for people to know what their policy entails?
It's really tough. I mean, most people are not that engaged with super, professionals included, and it's not until a person actually has a need to claim that they will even look into it further, or that it would be discovered that this would be the sort of thing that would apply to them. So in theory, yes, you can ask for a copy of the policy that applies to you, and you could ask, well, what test would I be assessed under if I was to make a claim? But you really need to be engaged in the subject matter to be asking those questions, and I think it's a really difficult task for most consumers, and certainly most people that are Maurice Blackburn clients, when you think about the fact that they're not interacting with these issues day to day.
What motivates you to take on these really difficult cases that you know are going to be time consuming, that you know have an uncertain end?
Well, I feel really proud to actually be part of this team of people. We like to think that we're tenacious and we've got compassion, and we go that little bit further. And so when we have clients that we've signed up that we thought have got straightforward cases, and then we've had to deliver the advice to them that actually it's not so straightforward and we couldn't have foreseen that, rather than shutting down the case at that point in time, we're really motivated to extend access to justice, because these are vulnerable people. And when you look strictly at the medical evidence, they are disabled for work. They do meet the regular TPD test. And so I guess it's a collective effort. It's not just individual lawyers. It's also the people that run these cases. Our law clerks are really dedicated, tenacious individuals also who want to find a way, and we want to help them find a way too. So as a collective effort that we've put our heads together, we've been motivated to really try and find a way forward and extend access to justice in these cases where we otherwise wouldn't have been able to.
And your clients, what do they say when you have to deliver bad news, or that they've got an uncertain claim?
I think it's really disappointing when a person receives the news that the insurance premiums they were paying for were essentially for a product that was junk. In some cases, people were completely uninsurable, so they were paying premiums for no insurance at all. And it's quite devastating for a client to receive that news. And I guess for them, even being able to push the envelope a little bit further and get them something, sometimes through the litigation process, sometimes by challenging and putting in a submission at claim stage, the client feels really vindicated that we've done our very best and that it was worthwhile to bring their case to Maurice Blackburn.
Well, Hayriye, it's been fascinating speaking with you today, and it's been fantastic to see that the work that you've done has led to some changes in how these policies are applied moving forward. So thank you for doing that work. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode of Justice Bytes. It's been really fascinating learning a bit more about TPD Insurance. If you'd like to find out more about the work that we do at Maurice Blackburn in this area, please make sure you look at our website or our socials. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, tune in to the next episode of Justice Bytes.